And you think about like my son in high school football right now. What is he doing before practice? Well, he's sitting for 8 hours in an uncomfortable chair doing nothing, and maybe his head's bent forward staring at a phone. And so neurologically, he's not really ready for full field, and he's a lineman. So he's doing a lot of lateral movement, pushing. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't been stimulating nervous systems at all. You look at volleyball, for example, let's just take one tiny little, tons of ocular tracking, ocular motor tracking, right? Tons of it. Has anybody ever addressed that? Tons of cervical movement, tons of like getting down on the ground into like it's not a squat, but more like a transitioning from like deadlift to like a hip hinge to like a knees forward kind of, I don't know what you call it, that anterior knee loading they do. Are we getting them ready for that? And does that happen through a ladder drill where the body's almost totally straight, right? That's really ankle centric. There's no hip range of motion. You're not getting into spine organization and all that stuff. And people are like, oh yeah, that prepped neurologically for this game, for this workout. And you're like, no, like it didn't. And that's not even saying the upper body, right? Volleyball players are like, you made a point the other day, almost all the power in volleyball happens with straight arms. And I was like, that's crazy. You never think about that. Whereas in pitching, 3/4 of it, golf, 3/4 of it is bent arm, and maybe you straighten at the end. And so focusing on the neurological system, and if you want to do that, our neurological systems are incredible at homeostasis. They fight for it, right? And so if given the chance, they will stay homeostatic or find the most boring and efficient way to complete something, which is now on this big picture is a threat to prepping that athlete for practice or play at the highest levels. And, you were the first person really, and I just think like pool noodles and ping pong balls and stuff, it's so different. You have no choice but to feel neurological or to receive neurological stimulation.
And with these modality, what you've tapped in on is the fact that with so much of this, we can play at 100% of what we're of speed. Like there's there's not a lot of risk in swinging pool noodles at each other and
right.
playing. So we can actually get the body trying to process things at 100% of speed. I worry. I think that early in my career, I was so concerned with having a huge library of regressions that my warm-ups, if you saw them, would be so much perfect crawling and neutral spine and dead bug and all of these.
Put a cone on the back so they stay ultra stable,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was so concerned, and everything was regressed to the point that a lot of that stuff stopped transferring. That a lot of that stuff wasn't great prep, might be really good foundational strength work, but not good in the precious time I have before training. And that if it's a risky to do, but early, in the last decade, I have slowly gotten rid of a lot of the traditional activation things that we were doing a lot of, and instead replaced it with with challenges that just reward athleticism and reward reaction time and reward speed. And of course, we're going to get the tissue warm in a safe environment where I have so many constraints on a game that they can't go fast enough to hurt themselves. Stretch it out, move through the ranges of motion that we need to play volleyball, take restrictor plates off, play that game at full speed. And that's a little bit more of a formula that I use now. And it probably looks, if I were the coach 20 years ago, that looking at this, I'd say, oh, this guy's just maybe a hack, and this guy he's going to get all his athletes in.
Yeah, when he finally learns how to do a warm-up.
Exactly. This guy doesn't do all of he doesn't go through the required tissue, like soft tissue work. He's not not doing that soft tissue as much. The athletes do that beforehand on their own. And I'm not spending nearly as much time stretching as I used to. We go through the most, like the 3, 4, 5 most bang for the buck stretches we can go do. And then we get right back out there before we cool down, and we move at game speed in whatever challenging kind of movement puzzle I've come up with them that day, come up for that. And lo and behold, I'm going to knock wood a bunch of times, but it's not like I've seen injuries just skyrocket. There's been no correlation. There's the downside that I worried about has emerged.
And if you look at some of those teams that have been worked with, strength and conditioning specialists who are like very traditionally based, you will often see them take over a team and you'll see injuries go up. So even with all the knowledge, we're all still idiots, right? Like we can be.
Boy, I'm so far away from blaming anybody on injuries. I was really lucky in my career, like that I went many years and didn't have a big one. And then I had 1 year where we had two, and they were they're like two of my strongest athletes that I would have the most bulletproof, crazy. And it's still a mystery that gets talked about, and we scratch our heads over all the time.
Yeah.
Then, now hopefully we go on another nice streak.
Yeah. To your point, I was taking care of one time of an electrician who was building a tower here. I live in Las Vegas, so he was building one of the huge strip hotels. And he said something to me that I think every strength and conditioning coach, he said, yeah, only 5 guys have died on that project. And OSHA said that 9 is acceptable. So we're doing good. And I was just like, oh my God, look, that's death, So when you're like, we had 2 injuries over one, it's like, yeah, but that's acceptable. It just sucks when whatever is normal, 2% is acceptable or something. It sucks when it's your 2%.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I have nothing but
yeah. One other thing. Well, I want to clarify for everybody listening too. I want to just remind, Brett is coaching at the highest levels of athletes who are typically very healthy, younger, and everything. So if you're running fitness programs for like 45-year-old weekend warriors, this is not a perfect equal sign here. Like, modify, but I think principles still hold up. Should we neurologically engage them? Absolutely. Heck, those people are probably sitting more than your team, and so like we got to fight it even more. But you might want to limit the full speed of this, and full speed might be different in your world. And you typically are coaching in a very large, spacious, open area gymnasium, whereas if I have a 1,500 square foot, CrossFit style gym, I might not be able to do all these things. So I just want people to realize that. Although I will say the principles hold up. Buy the ping pong balls and pool noodles.
It's a good caveat. And yeah, they say that just the difference between medicine and poison is dose. And that's similar.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
I often roll out what I think is going to be a genius warm up to do on an early Tuesday morning, and immediately see that it is at way too high a level. And that means that I haven't constrained it enough, that I have put on challenge, and the girls are able to go way too hard, way too fast. And now it's risky, and I'm sweating. I'm not having a good time. And I then change the rules of the game. And I would do the same thing if I was working with elderly, Gen Pop, whatever.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Trust Driven Insights, brought to you by Trust Driven Care. Imagine a world where all your patient communication is in one place, seamless, effortless, and on autopilot. That's the power of trust-driven care. If you're ready to streamline your practice, check out trustdrivencare.com and see what's possible. Trust-driven insights, real conversations, smarter care, stronger business.